Hello, welcome back. So this is Collapse Talk, and I'm glad to have you here with me with everything that's been happening. Just some stuff happening with my life and also just in the world, and I feel like this is a good time to record. So there's a lot to talk about this episode. A lot has happened. Yeah, so I mean, we're just gonna have to, just unravel that. At the very least, opening now with this information, this segment that I like to, or the sequences that I like to divide by their domestic, international, and the natural events that have been happening around the world. And there's a lot that I'll talk today. At the very least, though, I do want to open up and just let y'all know about my life and the things that I try to do just to support myself, because I try to. It's a lot. I do so much, and lately it just feels like it just feels like I'm fighting this uphill battle that, of course, it's the collapse, so everything is in decline. But it's just like I'm really trying to hold out. And I've been talking about this remote job that I landed. That would have been a good development, career-wise, just to support myself. And it's like this super like corporate really official job, and they sent me this equipment because there's a work computer that I have to work out of for security data reasons, and they only require Ethernet connection. And so I had to get like this 20-foot cord because that's the only way that I can connect it to my router. And I'm trying to get set up, and I don't know what it is. It's just there's connectivity problems that I'm trying to, because there's like a VPN that I have to log into before I can even start the computer. It's just, I don't know what to do. I've been calling support. At this point, they're just telling me to get a new cord, which I don't think is going to fix anything. And I could very likely lose this position. I've been out of work for almost 3 months now, and something that I don't know what to do, and I'm calling support. We do these reboots all the time. We did a whole factory reset. I wanted to I don't know, because I don't know too much about the computer stuff. I'm trying to activate some command prompt. Maybe this is like an antivirus sort of deal. I don't know what to do. I'm really trying, and this is just a constant theme in my life. That there's something, I'm doing what I can, I'm doing everything right, and then there's just something there, one little hurdle that could very easily just unravel my whole life, all this work that I've been doing. I mean, I was living out of my car, not a year ago today, actually. I was living out of my car because I needed a break, and I had to run away and just get my thoughts together, because there's only so much that you can live with to where you're just I gotta get away from this. And then I said, okay, I'll swallow my pride. Actually, because living on the road and living homeless, that's what I was doing. Even though I was going out in and out of motels, it wasn't a bad experience. I mean, I was still living pretty comfortably. I had DoorDash stuff, but yeah, I mean, it was still a stressful experience, and I was grinding my teeth, because I had lockjaw. That's why I had to come back, because I was in real pain. I'm explaining a lot, but I'm just trying to bring context, because people told me to go back. They told me to go back home and continue with school and try to find work, and I'm like, okay, and I'm doing exactly that. I'm doing what I can, because Lord knows, when you apply for these jobs, they make it the most complicated. This whole trying to start up this job, 3 months, because I'm still doing diversity training, sexual harassment stuff. I'm still in that phase, which isn't even the work. Now that I can't log into this computer, this company computer, I it's just I can't go back and start applying for work and then go maybe a whole nother month without hearing a response. I need to work now, man. I'm fucking poor. I need to work now. I want to work. It's God damn it. I want to fucking start knocking on people's doors. Please give me a job. I'll do anything. Holy shit, man. And then no, it's just gonna get turned down. And then if all this work that I've been doing just falls apart because of this technical problem that I can't control. Now people are going to start talking about me again. People are going to start pointing the finger and looking at me like, what the fuck is he doing? It's just, I'm trying. I really am. I feel like crying. I'm really trying to like contain myself because it's just like, I'm trying so hard. It's just too much. I don't know how does anybody live like this, man? And then, of course, people who've never had to deal with this stuff, they just think they know better. And they just look at you. What the fuck? Like, I don't work. Very, very interesting that people who call my work ethic into question have never actually seen me work. They've never seen me work. Very, very interesting, huh? But of course, because these fucking yuppies, these fucking suburbanites, they need somebody to look down on. And they hate the poor. They hate the homeless, right? Yeah, man, it just sucks. You know, when you have a society that is inherently dehumanizing, like, what a surprise. It really creates, like, really bitter attitudes amongst those that are disaffected, right? That are doing the best that they can. I mean, like, I'm doing what I can, and it's just like, and there's no break. There's no break at all. Nobody can just say, hey, man, I actually see the work that you're doing and I see how the toll that it's taking on you. Just focus on school. I got your back. You know, do a part-time gig, but I got your back. That's all I need right now. And it's just so hard. It's just so hard. So, you know, that's why I'm opening up with this stuff because I'm like, you know, because not only is this like a commentary show, it's almost like a vlog, a personal blog, but it's just like, I really do. I try not to. I don't like advertising the Patreon because I want to work. I want a job, but at the same time, it's like there's only so much that you can live with and put up with. So I do highly encourage checking out my Patreon. And again, all I need like just $1. That's it. Like, and you know, I'm still gonna, of course, do work. I want to work. I like working, but it's just like, I need help. I need help. I can't move back in with my family. It's just, that's not something I can do. And honestly, like, I wouldn't be afraid of living out of my car again. It's just like, I got like registration issues now. So of course I don't want to deal with some cop looking at my stickers, and then that's a whole nother issue. It's like, poverty is a fucking death sentence, man. It really is. Like, I'm poor. Just being straight up. I'm really poor. And I have certain people that can help me that just don't want to. They pretend like they can't, but it's just they don't want to because for some reason suffering is just good for me. It's just like, this is like torture, man. I feel like a hamster that's like being like poked and prodded and like being tortured and played with. It's just like, my God, man, what did I do in my life that was so egregious and so terrible that I have to like struggle and like fight for my life just to get through school, man? I got people who like look down on me because it's taken like, I'm 26 and I still don't have a bachelor's degree. And it's still like, they've never had to live the way that I live and what I've had to experience. You know, of course, you know, when people's lives are good for them, like, it's just like, oh, well, things are good for me and I don't have to think about anybody else. And then, of course, I don't know, man. I'm so tired, you know. I'm really tired. I work so much. And yeah, this is going to be a common thread now because like there's a lot of people who post online about the woes right now. Like, things are bad. This can't continue. This can't continue, man. This is so sad that we have to live like this. And it doesn't have to be like this at all. But people have their head up their ass. You know, people have their head up their ass and they don't, and then because things are good for them now. But of course, we are going to have another crisis, another crash. And all these people who think that they can just look down on the poor and the homeless, they're going to watch all their you know, the 401k, all these like different like investments just like that, just gone. All these people that thought that they were good and they were part of the rich, like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just like, wow. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just like, I'm trying to explain myself and trying to express some thoughts, because because like the fact that I'm losing this job, that very likely because of some technical connection problem, that it's just like I don't know what to do, and the support doesn't even know what to do either. It's like, wow. And then I'm gonna have people again telling me, oh, get a job, even when literally I had a job. And then something like, again, it's just like, I just want to get yelled at. I don't want to be disrespected anymore. I don't want to be insulted. I don't want to be belittled. It's just so hard. Anyway, I don't mean to be so sad, but like this right now. It's just too much. But at the very least, I can, because this show is like what gives me a sense of purpose. So, just talking at least with domestic problems, because I mean, things are bad right now, and again, people are just like, I don't know. It's like a dreamland. It's like, it's like people are afraid of their own shadows. It's like the most obvious things that are happening that they don't think about, and then like you say like, oh yeah, by the way, like, did you hear about this? What? Like, it's just wow. Anyway, because I want to talk at least with regard to, because before I go into the domestic stuff, because there are some like other issues that have happened, or just events really, like say the death of Queen Elizabeth, right? I was gonna talk about some UK economic woes, but I'll at the very least talk about some developments with the death of Queen Elizabeth, which is, and actually, like with the UK, like they just had that one of their new prime minister, Truss. So they had a new prime minister, and then the Queen died, and now we have King Charles III. Yes. Oh yes. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a silly place, the UK, and then, of course, now people are very much like just saying like, I don't care. It's like Queen Elizabeth was like the Anglosphere's grandma, right? The Western world's grandma. Everybody looked up to her, and she has this quiet dignity. Oh yes, she has this quiet dignity, and she held the country together. It's, it's so funny just the way people were like talking and reminiscing, and it's very clearly just like, the British Empire. Or yes, like no joke, like all these conservative like speakers were talking like, oh yes, the British Empire is the most benign force, the most benign empire in history. Oh really? Then why did we secede again? Why did? Oh no, not we. I keep saying we, but that's not my history. Why did the founding fathers secede again? Well, what reason? Yeah, like I saw this commentary where people were like, American conservatives, when they had to choose between white supremacy and American patriotism, they chose white supremacy, because obviously it's like, the Western world is attacked, white men are attacked. Oh, well, now we have to defend the British Empire. It's just like, wow. Yeah, man, that was just a wild day. Just, seeing the Queen die, and the reaction that people were having, especially among the formerly colonized nations, say like Nigeria and India, Ireland, right? Everybody's just like dunking on the empire. So that was just a great day to see, the world come together to reminisce over the dead British Empire, the dead Queen, and now we have the King. Fuck the King. So, yeah, man, that happened. And another world leader died too, Gorbachev. Gorbachev died, and of course the left came together for that, since Gorbachev, basically like just sabotaged the Soviet Union. I mean, it was already in decline from the other revisionists, but yeah, it was just interesting to see everybody, like all these like world leaders like croaking, and everybody's like, "Come on, Kissinger, let's go!" Like, So yeah, that's yeah. So that was interesting to happen. And yeah, with the UK and with this new king, not that I mean like of course they have political influence, but it's just like, well, what direction is the UK going to go? And of course they had today actually they had, I'm recording the 12th and September 12th, and today they had a funeral procession, public procession with Prince Andrew at attendance, and some kid heckled Prince Andrew, and everybody like, I mean, there's been like multiple protests at certain events, and they cracked down on that, and so like it wasn't even like the cops, like it was like some random like civilian, like some fucking you fucking wanker, like yeah, it's just some random fucking royalist just like dragged this kid. So it's like, man, this is such a weird like weird thing that's happening, weird tradition. Because like people were chanting, "God save the king! God, yes, sir! God save the king!" Like, what the fuck, bro? This is so weird. Man, this is yeah. Like they even had like a proclamation made. I think it was either Edinburgh, like somewhere in Scotland, and people were booing it. They're like, "Oh yes, God save King Charles III!" Boo! Like, yeah. So people aren't too happy right now, especially at the idea of the royalist and the monarchy. And I think now we're going to see a more push of abolishing the monarchy, becoming more mainstream, because I think, like, as I said, she's like the nation's grandma, right? So it's like, oh, okay, she's nice and little sweet, and okay, we don't want to cause too much trouble because, like, they don't want to upset this sweet old little lady. But now that it's King Charles, and people are going to be like, fuck the king. Like, so hopefully that comes to pass, because, yeah, man, it's just silly. It's just silly. And of course, people try to defend it. Oh, they do philanthropy. Oh, come on. It's just so silly. Like, what the fuck? Because it's some, like, ancient, like, divine right. Well, of course, like, with, it's England is a constitutional monarchy, but it's like they're talking about, oh, but you see, because they had the Magna Carta. Dude, the Magna Carta was signed because all these nobles, they didn't want the king to, it was King John. They didn't want him to be, like, stepping on them. So they rebelled and forced him to sign it. So, like, even this so-called constitutional monarchy, like, it only came to pass because the people said, hey, like, we'll fucking kill you. And they did. Like, they killed the king before the French did in the French Revolution. So it's like all these so-called, like, again, like, they're defending the British Empire, thinking that, like, oh, well, we see, because we have all these legal traditions because of the so-called British. But it's like, bro, that happened because people, like, rebelled and killed the king. That's how we have all these, that's why they have the parliament, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So that's that. And, of course, I'm going to talk more about certain problems and issues in the UK. That's for later. Right now, I want to talk at least just, the first part of the show with domestic problems in the US, domestic developments. So I'm going to read from Politico. And this is concerning the recent speech from Joe Biden. The so-called, like, controversial, like, oh, he's a dictator. Oh, yeah. And it's actually interesting too. Like, there was, like, I think NBC, ABC, like, they didn't even play the speech. So it's like there was, even among, like, certain liberals, they were like, oh, I don't like this kind of talk. And first it started this controversy, or it started where he made a really tepid like, just comment remark, like, saying, like, oh, I'm just concerned with the rise of these semi-fascists within the Republican Party, these Trump idealists. That's what he said. He didn't say all Republicans. He just said the Trump radicals. And then all these conservative speakers are like, oh my God, I can't believe you would smear us like that. And, this is becoming really polarizing and dangerous language. Yeah, the people who are threatening civil war because Trump is getting investigated. Oh, I can't believe you're being so divisive and you're stoking hatred. Like, wow, it's just wow. And So that was earlier. And then they officially made, Biden made this speech, with the backdrop of, this red and blue, like, lighting, really, the dark Brandon. Like, I don't care too much about that meme, but, that was, people were saying, like, this is similar aesthetic. And they had, like, Marines and, oh, my God, this is such a break from tradition. Oh, how dare Joe Biden? And, he just basically said, Joe Biden in his speech is talking about how the MAGA, like, Trump supporters with this cult of personality is tainting the Republican Party. I mean, because, like, Joe Biden's, like, pretty much, like, been open saying, like, oh, yeah, no, I still, like, right, he was talking about, like, oh, yeah, I would talk to segregationists and we'd be having lunch together. So it's just, like, I don't know what happened to the Republican Party. It's just so funny, like, but, yeah, a lot of these, like, establishment Democrats, like, they want a Republican Party. They just don't want this new radical strain that's taken hold, because it's a populist sort of thing. Because these Republicans have catered to a specific group that now they've completely radicalized this group with, like, all this propaganda and radicalism from, say, like, Fox News and all these other media outlets. And so the Republican Party now has this voter base that is just completely off its rocker. Like, it's just off the chain, like, losing its mind. Okay? And just to be very straight up, it's just, white supremacist, nationalism. You have blue collar workers who are, like, watching all this, like, their life savings drain away. And it's like, of course, the Republicans aren't going to say who it's really at fault. So they're going to blame the poor and immigrants, just the other trans people, right? Gay people. And it's like, it's a cycle. The Republicans are trapped in this cycle. So, of course, their voter base is going to become more and more radical. Okay? Because, I mean, what a surprise. And, like, all these districts, these local elections that like, are, becoming more and more polarized and radical. Like, the ones who end up winning the primaries are these, like, crazy ass, like, because, like, they're called, because they have rhinos, right? That's a term that the MAGA people use. So it's, like, Republican in name only, and then rhino hunters. And so, like, there was, like, this guy, I mean, he lost his election, but, like, this is going to be a new trend now where they're going to be saying stuff like that, like, I'm a rhino hunter, rah. Like, yeah. So anyway, and yeah, I mean, okay, because I hear this engine from my neighbor. I got this neighbor now who has this loud ass engine, and, like, I fucking hate him so much. Like, holy shit. Because, like, it's so obnoxious, and it's not even, like, a pickup truck. It's, like, this Dodge SUV, so I'm just like, holy shit. Like, it's just attention-seeking behavior. Like, wow. And then, like, he starts it up, like, early in the morning, and then, like, it scares my cat, and, like, wow. It's just, like, I don't know why people are like this, man. It's just, like, you see certain people, and it's just, like, why do you exist? But, okay, he turned it off. I'm sorry that I got on a tangent there, but it's just, like, it's not only him, too. Like, I have other people that I live around. They just have loud-ass cars. Just, like, it's just so obnoxious, man, really. Anyway, I'm going to get back to what I was saying. So, yeah, Biden did this speech, and so people are saying, oh, I can't. But, yeah, they're just upset about it. So I'm reading from Politico, and they're just, like, making their observations and also talking with people. So, they're saying, quote, aides said that Biden had been planning to give a version of Thursday night's address since this past June. Aides said that Biden had been planning to give a version of Thursday night's address since this past June, relaying he wanted to speak on what he saw as increasingly grave threats to the nation's democracy. But events continued to get in the way of its delivery. Pressure built over the past few weeks, they said, amid a number of developments. GOP primary victories of a number of 2020 election-denying candidates in state and federal contests, combined with the consolidation of support around Trump, jolted the White House. Biden told associates that he barely recognized the Republican Party, which he could once work, seeing a personality cult instead. So of course he's like lamenting. It's like, oh man, I don't recognize where these things have gone. Yeah. So I'm just going to continue a little further because they're talking about the FBI raid against Trump, and of course, you have people calling, for violence, and yeah, it's just crazy. Right. Biden's speech landed hard. Within a relatively brisk 25 minutes, he declared that, quote, equality and democracy are under assault, and, quote, that it did the country, quote, no favor to pretend otherwise, and that too much of what is happening in our country today is not normal. His defenders lauded him for speaking blunt truths. His critics accused him of stoking very divisions he was decrying. Jim Dornan, a longtime Republican operative and member of an anti-Trump wing of the party, said, while the former president and his allies are giving Biden plenty of evidence to back the arguments made Thursday night, Biden used the wrong tactic. The speech felt like a 24-minute bitch slap of Republicans, he said. Quote, I was offended by certain parts of it. I think he would have been better off not doing it. He's not going to gain votes from people like me, he added. So, again, you have certain, Republicans where it's like, well, I don't know. I feel like it's this common attitude where it's like you have to cater to people's feelings, which, at a certain degree makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, maybe I don't want your vote. Maybe if you're already somewhat well, I'll hear them out at least, literal fascists. It's like, maybe I don't want you to consider, voting for me. If you're undecided, oh man, I have to choose between literal white supremacist Christian fascism versus the very opposite of that. Man, you better talk to me nice or else I'm going to vote for the fascists. So it's but anyway, some liberals are also voicing this no, we can't be divisive. It's bro, we don't need them. We very much don't need them. Okay. And of course, he said oh, I'm worried about semi-fascists. No, it's not semi-fascist. They're just fascists. Just plainly. Ted Cruz was getting upset. Oh, I can't believe you would call us semi-fascist. Bro, you yourself are, you market yourself as, oh, I'm anti-Antifa. It's wait, what's Antifa mean again? Oh, so, yeah. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, of course, people are, talking about this. I mean, it's just it's an inconsequential speech, it's just he's an old man, so he's just oh, well, I'm worried about democracy, and we're facing a threat like never before. That's it. He's just doing a little speech, and people are conflating it. They're just blowing it up because conservatives, of course, they you get spilled milk, and it's just oh my god, it's just, yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, just pure projection. Because, at a certain point, you have to, really think, man, how do they not understand, what they're doing? They do. They know exactly what they're doing. It's just, wow. You have, literal white supremacist, agitation, okay? Stochastic terrorism, okay? And I need to, because I had an idea to do, a quick little, video on that. Because, I want to release documentaries, but I need to downsize it. I need to do more smaller projects because I want to do something big, and it's there's too much research into it. But what they're doing is stochastic terrorism, really, because it's just they radicalize people. They make these talking points very obviously white supremacist in nature, fascist in nature, and then of course you get some mass shooting where the guy writes a manifesto saying exactly the same thing. He's saying exactly the same thing. They have the search history, and it's always the same people: Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Matt Walsh. It's the same people, okay? And they're saying the same stuff. These terrorist shooters, and then anytime they're remotely oh man, oh I don't know what he was on. He was a pot smoker. Yeah, that's it's just crazy. It's crazy. They had this school, this children's hospital in Boston, and like they had bomb threats. The very hospital that this Matt Walsh asshole was like calling out, they're getting bomb threats. And then of course like somebody gets killed and it's like, oh, I don't see how I'm connected to that. It's like, yeah. So it's like this is a concerted effort. And I was also talking about last episode about Kiwi Farms, which is pretty much, from what I understand, dead now. So that was a good development. That was nice to see, because like a lot of people were like scared of that website, and we finally got rid of that. But the fight isn't done, because like the alt-right like tech companies, like it's still a very real thing. Like it's going to be a very serious problem, man. But anyway, it's just like it's all connected. It's all a thread, and all these people who are on the right and the Fox News, alt-right media, like it's like a cancer, and like it has to be removed completely. It has to be removed completely. But of course, this is like a multi-billion-dollar operation that is being funded by these billionaires. The Koch brothers, right? Some other billionaire. They talk about George Soros. Oh, he's funding this leftist movement. Meanwhile, like they're literally like, like I wish somebody would just like some like leftist like philanthropist would just be like, here, I'm gonna write a blank check, and because like that's where the money is. The money is like in being all like misinformation, right, and conspiracy theories. That's what the money is. Like, so of course I talk about like real facts and stuff, and it's an uphill battle from the start, from the get-go, and I'm proud of the progress I've made with this program. It's just like, wow. You look at a guy like Ben Shapiro, who's just like trash, but of course because he's being paid and he has like a big, nice studio, and so he looks super official, and then he's like a little nerdy guy. Oh well, you see, because like you can like trick some like, yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I need to move on. I'm just like, the response from this speech, and of course the projection, because that's what it is ultimately. Everything these conservative alt-right media heads talk, it's like they talk about the left doing, they do themselves. The radicalization, it's gonna get bad, man. And of course now they are literally talking about civil war. They keep saying civil war, so they're the ones talking about like doing this shit. That's what they've always been doing. And then once like the shooting starts, I can't believe it. Well, you see now, because now that we're at war, I have to, massacre all minorities. It's just like, because you forced my hand. It's just like some crazy rationalization, okay? Because this is what they want to do, but they need that casus belli. Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, I'm going to move on, because this is such a weird topic to talk about. Just from the speech and the reaction, like it's silly. But of course, this is where we're at now. We're living in a silly timeline. So, that's with Biden's speech that was, circulating the headlines. But, I'm not a person who's going to celebrate Biden. I mean, like he's like, it's like a wet sock. I'm just like, I don't know what to feel. I mean, I'm glad Trump is gone. Things aren't as funny as they used to be, because I'll be honest, like Trump is funny. Like I'll be honest, like there's some clips that I'm like, people were talking about Queen Elizabeth and they were doing the Trump little like Ruth Bader Ginsburg like like monologue he did. He's like, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. She was a wonderful woman. So, it's like, now that I can look back at it, I can like laugh, because like at the time, like I was like seriously like one of these like, because I was still pretty liberal at the time, so I was one of these people that's like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened, like clutching my pearls. But now I'm just like so naive. But I was young. I was like 2016, like I'm barely 20 years old, so like I'm still a kid at that point. But anyway, so that was the Trump speech or the Biden speech, and the of course the pearl clutching, in response to that from both sides. Actually, some liberals were, saying how, oh, this is this is a breach of decorum, breach of precedent, like that sort of stuff. Silly, just silly. So another developments that have happened with like election results. They had a special election in Alaska. This representative, Don Young, he passed, and so they had an election to, put a replacement until his term ended, which is in November. So, yeah, that happened, and a Democrat, Mary Pelotla, hope I'm saying that right, or Petola, hope I'm saying that right, she won. She won the election against Sarah Palin, who was an interesting character with this U.S. House special election. So this is interesting, development, right? Especially in a place like Alaska, which is pretty red. But this is also Pelotla is also, or Peltola is she's the first Alaska Native in Congress. So that's good. That's nice to see that little victory there. I mean, of course, like more Native American representation in Congress would be, much better. But yeah, it's interesting. But I wanted to talk about this at least, not necessarily because this is like a little election, like special election, but to talk about ranked choice voting, because that was what they do in Alaska. They do that for state and federal elections over there, and people are having this conversation now. And so, yeah, I wanted to at least talk about that and other developments, because ranked choice voting is just like makes the most sense. And so what ranked choice voting does, and I'm reading from Ballotpedia, it is effectively, you have your ballot and then you choose, because they have different rounds of counting the ballots, right? And so your first preference, you mark that in, and then you have a second, third, fourth, however you rank it, right, based on what you prefer. And so they count those ballots, and if there isn't, in the first round of counting the ballots, if there isn't a clear, decisive, majority winner over 50%, then they move on to a new round of counting. And in that second round of counting, what they do is the candidate with the least amount of votes in the first round gets eliminated, and those ballots are, they remove the ballot from the least. I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but they remove the ballots for the least candidate, and of those ballots, their second preference now gets added in. And yeah, I would encourage you to look up the Ballotpedia ranked choice, voting, because I'm doing a terrible job explaining it. But look that up, and they'll go into better detail explaining about the ballot system. But I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, we should definitely do something like that out here, just nationwide, because that seems to be the most sensible way to count votes if we're trying to respect the will of the people. And like there were certain Democratic certain like conservative people on Twitter just talking like, well, if we did ranked choice voting all over the country, Democrats would win by a landslide. It's like, wouldn't that? Could you imagine that? Wow. It's almost like conservatives are in a minority. Man. Yeah, anyway, it's just so funny. It's so funny how like they're like, no, we can't have democracy. We can't do that because we'll lose. Wow. It's just wow. Anyway, yeah, so they had this little election here, and that little victory for Democrats with this special election, although they're going to have another election on November for the new 2-year term. So, yeah, good luck to her, because she's going to run again for that. I actually have like a friend who lives in that region, so I don't know where her voting was at, because she does seem a bit conservative. But just funny, like it's just so funny how like you can have friends who are like just conservative leaning, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll vote for Sarah Palin. Like what? So yeah, actually, like, so I was reading from this NPR article, and so they had like this little excerpt where they talk about Sarah Palin, and it seems that like her and Petola they have a personal relationship, favorable relationship, friendship even, because they worked together when Palin was governor. Patola was a legislator. And so here's what this little paragraph says. So, though Palin had sharp words for her fellow Republican Begich, she refrained from attacking Patola during the campaign, calling her a sweetheart. Patola also did not badmouth Palin, telling NPR, quote, "The region where I'm from, there is a big premium on being respectful, on not using inflammatory language or harsh tones." So, it's so interesting because Sarah Palin is like, she's quite literally like the genesis of like the Tea Party, like the birther movement, like her, Trump, like, yeah. So it's so interesting how like she would actually like against a Democrat, her opponent, even like I'm sure like she's still like trying to contest the results, but it's like, like she actually kind of likes her, Patola. And so it's just so interesting how like you can be on like this like political spectrum and then still somehow like on a personal level respect in someone, as a friend or colleague, even though like they have like wildly opposing views. So it's very interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, because I was talking about like a personal friend, but that's the ranked choice voting and the results there in Alaska and how that is going to just influence things moving forward. But I also bring this up because we're having this discussion of ranked choice voting, but there's also this particularly important Supreme Court case that I, for whatever reason, it's just like now I can address it because like I've been holding off on it, so now I can talk about it at the very least about this court case that's happening. It's concerning this out of North Carolina, this like voting map, and they have this super fringe. I'm reading from a transcript from this radio interview on NPR, and so there's like this like super fringe interpretation that basically says that state legislators can just up and like ignore the state constitution and just like set whatever legal parameters for elections. And like, of course, like we have like a lunatic Supreme Court, with Kavanaugh, with Barrett, right, Gorsuch, Clarence Thomas. like they're hearing this out, this like theory that like, oh yeah, the legislators, we don't have to abide by the Constitution. That, yeah, it's ridiculous. And then like the Supreme Court case, like judges are like, yeah, no, we should hear that out. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna read from NPR just to explain further what's happening here. So, just reading. So they have Lo Wang, Hansi Lo Wang, who is an NPR journalist, and they're also just talking with some other experts, right? Right. So this is from Lo Wang, and they're concerning this fringe theory. Quote, "It claims that the U.S. Constitution gives state legislators the power to control how elections for Congress and for president are conducted without any limits from state constitutions or state courts. Now, state legislators would still be limited by federal laws passed by Congress in the U.S. Constitution, but under this theory, state legislators would have almost unchecked power over federal elections for Congress and the president." And continuing further, because they're talking like, okay, this is a fringe theory, right? So yeah, Lo Wang again. "The legal scholars I've talked to tell me this is a very fringe, controversial reading of the U.S. Constitution. Essentially, they told me it's reading too much into the word legislature and ignoring the fact that state legislators are created by the state constitutions. For many legal scholars, it just does not make sense to argue that state legislators do not have to follow their own state's constitutions or the rulings of the state court." It's like, yeah, obviously the Constitution is the law, like it's the Constitution. and then the conservative Supreme Court judges, they've signaled that they are interested in this independent state legislator theory. 3 of them have signaled that they would likely side with the North Carolina Republican state lawmakers in this case. And a Supreme Court endorsement of this theory could have implications far beyond North Carolina and election laws across the country. So it's just ridiculous. They're just like, oh yeah, we don't have to listen to the Constitution, our Constitution, the state Constitution. We don't have to abide by that. The judges are like, makes sense to me. This is what I mean. This is a concerted coup effort by conservatives. Like this is a coup, man. This is how it works. Of course, they can't just send in the military yet. They can't do that yet. They have to do all these legal, dance. Like, oh, well, you see, because the Supreme Court has decided that the state legislators can ignore the Constitution. Like, it's just so funny. It's just like, this is a fake country, bro. This is a fake country. And these conservatives, they are setting us up for disaster. They're going to set us up for disaster, and then when things start falling apart, they're going to start blaming the leftists, of course, because, of course, it's the radical Democratic left. Biden, he's Stalin. Like, it's just just complete lunacy. Anyway. Right. Continuing, still with Lo Wang. Right now, election experts are saying there could be a wide range of ripple effects depending on how the court rules. It could become easier in some states for state lawmakers to gerrymander congressional maps to benefit their party. I talked to Carolyn Shapiro, a professor at Chicago-Kent College of Law, and Shapiro told me that it could also upend election rules and bring a lot of chaos to election officials. And then now they're continuing with Carolyn Shapiro. Almost every state has what we might call unified elections. So they hold elections at the same time for different offices at different levels of government. Under the independent state legislative theory, there would be the potential that you would have to have different ballots, that you would have to have different registration systems, and you would have to have different voter ID laws. And there would be all kinds of things that might be impossible to operate in that unified way. So this is like inherent sabotage. Like, imagine if you had to do all these, like, it's the red tape, it's the bureaucracy, and they make it to such a degree that it's like, what's the point of voting if it's all this work? Like, it very much reminds me when they had stuff like poll taxes and the reading tests, right? And I actually even saw this photo of one of those reading tests from the Jim Crow era, and it's like, it's constructed in such a way that like you can't pass. It's just like you can't pass. All these questions are like, it's just like, what? Like, there's, anyway, it's ridiculous, bro. Like, they do all this legal precedent and make it like this dance, this like little like circus act, so then they could just say legally, oh, well, you can't vote. Like, I'm kind of worried about this upcoming election because like I keep hearing these reports of like a certain voter who like they missed like this one little like paper trail like issue that the police were just like, oh, okay, well, now we have to arrest you for voter fraud. It's just like, what? Like, just because of this little paper error, now it's a felony. It's ridiculous, but that's what they're doing now. Because they don't want people like me, right, melanated people, having voting rights. And, this is what it's about. Of course, how much you want to bet in this North Carolina gerrymandered district? It's against a predominantly either black or, non-white community. That's what they do, man. It's just like, oh, no, we can't do ranked choice voting. We can't have democracy. So, yeah. So this is expected to be a, because like there's a whole lot that's coming out for the next session, which is going to be next summer. But I don't have much hope that they're going to be able to make a good ruling with this. It's like, the Supreme Court is just like these old people that like, what the fuck, man? This is very clearly not the will of the people. And like, they were saying actually concerning like the Roe v. Wade decision and the leak before that, that like Chief Justice John Brown or whatever his name is, John Brown, but they said the Chief Justice was like attempting to reach out to the conservative justices, trying to like cut a deal, because like even he, like, a lot of conservatives are actually like very pro-abortion. Like, that's the thing that they don't like. This like pro-life movement is like a very fringe group. But anyway, even he was trying to like make a case, trying to like, compromise and cater to the conservatives, and the leak is what pushed them to to overturn Roe v. Wade. The leak was what did it. And, of course, there's very, very good evidence to point that Clarence Thomas was somehow involved with that leak. I mean, his wife was already implicated in the January 6th insurrection, which, of course, nobody's really, following up on. But, this is like, there is very clearly an underground secret movement within the conservative, Republican conservative parties that are trying to destroy democracy. And of course, when you see Biden making a little comment saying purely against the Trumpers, right? But it's not just the Trumpers, it's the whole Republican movement. But saying like, oh, they're semi-fascist, they're just like, oh, what? This is so divisive. I can't believe you would say this. This is dangerous language. But then they do stuff like this in the shadows, trying to actually undermine our democracy with this like legal song and dance. But yeah, man, things are not going to turn out well. It's just to say the least, because this is very clearly a coup that is going to fall through. They're going to do something. Yeah, they've already demonstrated it. And I talked earlier about it's just bad, man. Things are so bad. Like, this is not going to end well. And then, of course, like, it's like people are complacent because they just want to ride out this comfortable lifestyle, right? They got normal lives and, I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to live my suburban life because that's all I have to live for. And then all of a sudden one day they're just going to wake up and then there's going to be a fascist dictatorship and then it's just like, I'm just going to, as long as they don't come after me, what do I have to do, right? That's the thing. When we talk about the Third Reich, Germany being taken over, like, not that many people were like hardline, like Aryan, like, pro-Nazi people, but, they weren't getting harassed. In fact, they were, being preferred and being, getting uplifted, right? Being supported by this regime. So it's like, okay, well, my life is good. So I'm not going to stand up for my Jewish neighbors. I'm not going to stand up for my gay neighbors because I don't want to ruin what I got going on right now. Yeah, man. It's just, that's the way things are. People are, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I'm just saying, like, as I said, Americans are like scared of their shadow. The most obvious thing that's happening right in front of them, like, they just like don't talk about, or they don't want to think about it until somebody like me says it, because I understand that it can't be ignored, but of course they just anyway, I'm gonna continue because it's just crazy just thinking about everything. Anyway, but then, that's like political developments which people don't like thinking about. But then, like, you have stuff like with Jackson, Mississippi. And Jackson, Mississippi is a new crisis that's occurring, a water crisis, which is going to become a common theme now. And they have this water crisis. They can't drink their water. They can't even shower. Like, they told them straight up, like, don't take a shower. Like, it's just like, yeah, funny. Oh no, see, because under socialism you'll have bread lines, but under capitalism you'll have water lines. So that's obviously better. Man, I can't even imagine what I would be doing if, like, suddenly, like, I couldn't use the water and I had to line up for hours. Like, these lines are long, and they're getting like maybe like a couple packs of water, and wow, man, like, this is so bad. This is embarrassing that we have to like live like this, that we just watch stuff like this and then like honestly believe, oh no, you see, because China is going to collapse any second now. And then like stuff like this happens. And this is going to continue to become a problem. Like, it's just the grade is just going to continue. Wow, man. And yeah, man. And what a surprise too. This is like all these like water crises, all these clean water crises are happening in majority black areas. Like, Jackson, Mississippi is like 80% black. Flint, Michigan is a black city. Like, wow, what a surprise. All these different towns with majority black people are running out of clean water. Anyway, bro. So, I'm going to read from NBC. And they're talking about the inspections, the relief efforts that are undertaken for this. But again, this is just a common theme now of just decline and just the infrastructure just like rotting away. And then like people just like, of course, the suburbs. Oh no, the suburbs are nice and pretty and clean. And, all this, it's nice and clean. Everything's great. Lots of water, right? But hey, who needs clean water in Jackson, Mississippi, right? Like they did this like report on like certain celebrities too, and they said like Kim Kardashian, like she oh my God, it's just like they basically said like 9 months worth of water, like over the course of like I forget like the timeline, but like there was just like the amount of waste, especially from like celebrities. Like, wow, man, this is just the way we live, bro. Fuck the poor. It's just wow, man. So, right, reading from NBC concerning Jackson, Mississippi, right? A team from the Environmental Protection Agency's Office of Inspector General arrived in Jackson last week to begin a multidisciplinary top-to-bottom review of the current drinking water crisis. An agency spokesperson told NBC News, quote, "The EPA OIG is keenly interested and concerned about what is happening in Jackson, Mississippi," said the spokesperson Jennifer Kaplan. Quote, "Last week, we began sending OIG personnel to collect data and conduct interviews over the coming week, we expect to announce work related to the city's water system. The Inspector General's office is staffed by teams of auditors, evaluators, and criminal investigators. The office did not say which specific teams were deployed to Jackson." And they also go a little further because, of course, this has been a problem that has been... Because, like, all these little problems that are happening, like, they're fixable, but they're just left... They're just ignored. And, of course, this fixable problem gets worse and worse and worse. And then eventually now we're in a situation where you have, like, Jackson, Mississippi has 150,000 people. Now they don't have clean water because they didn't want to fix this problem that just accumulated over time. This is ridiculous, bro. This is absolutely ridiculous. And then we sign off on billions of dollars to Ukraine and all these cops. And we can't even have clean water. We can't even have a functioning electricity grid system. Like, oh no, but you see healthcare, oh, that's going to cost a lot of money. But hey, no response whatsoever to this. Nobody talks about this. Nobody fucking cares. This is why I'm just like, I'm so like, I'm out of it. Like, it's just like, you kind of see like the apathy that people have towards the world, and it's like, wow, it's just like, wow, how do people live like this? So anyway, right. So in recent years, the issues with Jackson's water system have come under scrutiny from state and federal regulatory officials who have flagged problems ranging from inadequate staffing at the city's main water treatment plant to delays in carrying out needed repairs. Residents recently experienced a days-long outage of running water, and even now, more than 150,000 people or residents in Mississippi's capital still lack clean drinking water. Mississippi's Governor Tate Reeves said Friday that a citywide boil water notice in effect since July 29th was unlikely to be lifted over the weekend. The Inspector General's inquiry in Jackson is similar to the EPA's involvement in Flint, Michigan, beginning in 2014, which culminated in a blistering report on lead contamination 4 years later. That report concluded, quote, "The EPA should strengthen its oversight of state drinking water programs to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the agency's response to drinking water contamination emergencies." The Flint water crisis ultimately resulted in 9 indictments. Again, like the governor, like he's still, like, they say indictments, but of course, like, nobody got charged over this stuff. But yeah, the Inspector General's Jackson review will start with conversations with local, state, and federal players who have a role in overseeing the public resources dedicated to ensuring residents have clean water. again, like, they're just gonna do like this little thing. It's just so funny. And of course, like, it's this fucking Jackson, Mississippi, bro. Like, come on, they're like see, because we're dignified folks. Like, it's just whatever, man. Right. So that's there. Of course, things are not good in the U.S. of A. Man. And again, you're just told you gotta be proud. You gotta be proud to be an American. It's just like, what the fuck, bro? It's just a joke. It's a fucking joke, man. Again, it's just like you couldn't get a better indication of how things are, where something like clean water is becoming a problem that, of course, like, nobody fixed anything until like shit goes wrong, and then it's like, now we got to do the criminal investigation. It's just like, dude, like, come on. Wow. And again, when you're poor, it's like you can't wait for them to fix it. Like, I need clean water right now, and you guys just let it slip away. Crazy country we live in. But of course, these suburbanites, like, yeah, of course, I sound like I have a lot of contempt, and I do, really, because it's just like, you talk to some people and they're just like, what? Like, it's just like, wow, you really live in such a perfect little straight edge, like, nice lawn, so safe and perfect, white picket lifestyle. Everything is great for you. So you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to be worried about anything, right? Because you live in this bubble around all these white folks, because that's really what it is. It's white flight. It's just like, come on. Dude, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, so that is me talking about the U.S. Now I want to go into more international affairs and to talk about stuff. I was talking about the death of the Queen. That's just been something that's been taking over the UK. But also they have a new prime minister. They have a prime minister. Her name is Liz Truss. She's a Tory. So that is, this Tory government is just like all over the place. But hey, that's just how things are right now. So we're talking about the UK and just really there's concerns now about energy and just the cost of living. And of course the UK is like they have to import their food, right? They're an island, so they have to import their food, and and they're not part of the European Union. So like things are just not looking good. Really, things are looking pretty dire, and winter is coming, and so there's concerns over energy, heating, gas and such, and so they have to make measures, austerity measures, right, to address just these woes, right? The consumer is about to hit a really low point, really turbulent time. But so they have Liz Truss taking over as prime minister, and they're announcing the measures that they're taking to address these rising costs. So they said Prime Minister Liz Truss has said domestic fuel bills will be frozen for 2 years, marking her first week in office with a costly plan to tackle the country's cost of living crisis. The government said on Thursday it would also review progress toward its legally enshrined target to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050 to ensure the needs of consumers and businesses are taken into account, while stressing it remain committed to the goal. So, yeah, they have to balance between these emission targets and also not drowning, consumers and businesses. So, yeah, that's what they're announcing, these caps, right? So, right, households are facing an 80% hike in gas and electricity bills next month due to the rise in the cost of wholesale energy, made worse by a squeeze on supplies after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Businesses whose bills are not capped have warned they could go to the wall because of even bigger rises, at the same time as inflation is at 40 years high of 10.1% and predicted to go higher. The government expects the state-backed scheme to cost tens of billions of pounds, but Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, UK's new finance minister, insisted it would have substantial benefits to the economy. It would curb inflation by 4 to 5%, they said in a statement. They also announced an end to a ban on fracking, a controversial method to drill for fossil fuels, and more drilling licenses for North Sea oil and gas. So they're announcing these caps, and they're also saying they want to reach certain fuel emissions, but they're going to continue with the fracking, the drilling for oil. So it's really interesting how like this war, like it's like kind of causing the West to, because they don't want to make a deal. So they're just going to start drilling and fracking more so that they can get their own oil. Yeah. So great developments there. And so they said, Truss is saying at least that this is, a sigh of relief, or Truss and Kwarteng saying this is a sigh of relief, trying to, lessen the load on, the average people, because these bills they're adding up for working folks. They're adding up. And of course, we've had also strikes from like rail workers. So like there's labor movements that are happening now demanding for more pay. So like, yeah, man, like things are getting rough for the UK. And, who knows? I mean, there's talk about, like, say with Scotland, there's talk about having a referendum once more for secession. And also like Sinn Féin, right? They're the biggest party in Northern Ireland. So like, who knows if like they'll push for reunification anytime soon, right? They have like the Star Trek meme. Oh yes, the Irish reunification of 2024. So it's just like, come on lads, let's do it. So yeah, actually, so just a little tangent, because I actually did a DNA test. And so I found that I actually have 5% Irish ancestry. It's actually like the third most European heritage that I got. So it's like Spanish and Portuguese, and Irish is 5%. So I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, because 5%, that's like a distant relation, since I'm primarily like Spanish or Portuguese, but Iberian. So I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, because you think like the history of Ireland, and I'm like, well, I mean, Oliver Cromwell was, conquering and, genociding all over Ireland in like the 1600s. And there was a diaspora from that. There were Spanish, Irish refugees that went to Spain. So I'm like, okay, like that might be the heritage that I have from that. So like, I may or may not be connected to the genocidal colonialism of the British Empire. So it's like, okay, like I gotta be supportive of my Irish brethren. So yeah. Anyway, that's a little thing I want to talk about. But just the UK at the very least, they're, yeah, man, like, and this is going to be a common thread with Europe as well. And Europe is doing their own measures to address these fuel caps. Well, okay, so actually they're doing it differently. So UK is doing the fuel caps, and they're basically just like making it so like I think 2,500 is the cap for households for 2 years, whereas the EU, their decision is, or what their proposal is going to be soon, is to just go at the profits, take those costs out of the profits of these energy firms, because Lord knows they've been making a buck from all this. So I'm reading from Reuters. So the European Union energy ministers on Friday tasked Brussels with drafting proposals within a few days to cap the revenues of non-gas energy producers and help power firms stay afloat. But as they sought to protect citizens from soaring energy prices that have driven inflation across the continent to record highs, the ministers backed away from more divisive proposals to cap Russian gas prices. At an emergency meeting in Brussels, the ministers instead asked the European Commission to propose broader gas price caps, even as the EU executive itself swiftly poured cold water on the feasibility of such an idea. EU countries also supported the executive's proposal to offer emergency funds to power firms facing soaring collateral requirements and charged the Commission with designing such measures. Quote, "Everybody's in a hurry to find a solution," Sweden's Energy Minister Kasahir Farmanbar, as ministers worried over the impact of sky-high energy prices on households and businesses. The EU's windfall plan, yet to be fleshed out, would see government skim off excess revenues from wind, nuclear, and coal power plants that currently sell their power at record prices determined by the cost of gas and use the money to curb consumer bills. So that's not, the worst thing, So yeah, I mean, like, it's, these companies are making record profits, so it's like, yeah, just use that to cover people's bills, because, geez, man, people are drowning, goddamn. And yeah, I mean, there's also, they don't exactly want to put caps on Russian gas, because Russia's already like depleted their supply. They say up to like 90%. Yeah, so yeah, it's not something that they can do right now. Like they can't risk losing that gas, and even like the euro now is below $1. Like, so things are not looking good, man, and they're kind of stuck on making a decision. Like, say right here, reading from the Hungarian Foreign Minister, quote, "If price restrictions were to be imposed exclusively on Russian gas, that would evidently lead to an immediate cutoff in Russian gas supplies." So, yeah, they're a bit divided on this, Let's see what else. Right. And this is from the Dutch State Secretary for Extractive Industries, Hans Vijbref, whatever you say, Dutch. Quote, "I would not say there was a broad support for a broad gas price cap." So there's real like divide. There's a real divide on this, and like if they lose the Russian gas, like, bro, there's gonna be riots, man. Like, seriously, like, things are not good. This is gonna be a very rough winter, man. If Russia just like cuts off the just like shuts the pipe, right? Man, so yeah, that's the different like solutions, and the UK have they have their plan, and then the EU has their plan, and then of course all the EU states are getting really divided about this, and this is like really unstable, really unstable. So really precarious situation, because when it comes to resources, like all that like brother in arms stuff that the EU is about, now that like the resources are starting to dwindle, it's going to start that national divide once more. And yeah, I mean, so just like talking, because I'm a gamer, right? I'm a gamer, bro. But just talking about say like the Fallout lore, like this is exactly what was happening. They had resource problems, and all these like European countries started fighting each other. And man, yeah, it's so interesting how like a piece of fiction can actually like really emulate, just somehow predict very real geopolitical circumstances. But hey, that's where things seem to be heading. So yeah, anyway, so that's the gas crisis, the energy crisis that Europe is going to be facing. And before and there's some other stuff that are developing with this Ukraine war in particular, because a lot has happened, and there's been some developments that are good for Ukraine, as particularly with this offensive in Kharkiv. But we don't want to exactly counteract this too soon, because we don't exactly know what's going to happen, because this is a very, it's a very fluid situation right now, because anything could happen, right? So Russia basically controls, they say, about a fifth of the country, the the eastern side that's bordering Russia out of the Crimea and Donbass regions. And so, yeah, they also hold now, say, Kherson, and they held Kharkiv, which now Ukraine has made a significant offensive to retake that land. I mean, like, it was a rout, basically. Like, they made a huge gain, and I want to be objective, but of course, like, it is pretty impressive to see the gains that they made just overnight. But of course, there's some other developments, and for a moment, it seemed as though like it was a trap. It seemed as though like because they were breaking through pretty quickly, and like they seemed like they were about to overextend themselves, and then they would get encircled. So who knows where Russia, what their plans are, to counteract this, because you can make a pretty significant gain taking back some territory, but then you have to hold it, because of course Russia is going to respond to that, and that part of the country, because there's of course the question of air superiority, but like Russia can have the far greater control of the airspace in the east than they did, say, around like Kiev or so that's the question, right? So anyway, so I'm reading from the BBC talking about this pretty like explosive breakthrough, right? And so so they're just talking about the gains that they made. So they said they have retaken over 3,000 square kilometers. They've made remarkable advances within that 48-hour period. And I mean, here's the thing though, because you hear the Ukrainian government making these responses, but journalists aren't allowed on the front line. So of course the information that we're getting from the Ukrainians is going to be very biased. It's going to be very biased because I've seen some reports about like casualties, and like they had to like some of the hospitals were like so like overfilled that they had to like rush people to Kiev, and like so it's like they had, it was a big fight. It was a really, really heavy fight for sure. But journalists aren't allowed on the front lines, so we don't exactly know what's happening. The Ukrainians might be giving us these positive figures. Okay, we made these gains, but then it's like, okay, but what was the cost of that? Because you can make a pretty significant like campaign, but then you could also lose like a lot of men. I'll talk about the Kherson offensive. They're trying to make moves there. Some are even saying that the Kherson offensive was meant to be a diversion for this Kharkiv movement. So I'll talk about that in a second. But let's see. So talking about Russia, right? So Russia's defense ministry confirmed its forces retreated from Izium itself and Kupiansk, which it said would allow them to regroup in territory held by Moscow-backed separatists. The Russian ministry also confirmed the withdrawals of troops from a third key town, Balaklia. In order to bolster efforts in the Donetsk front, Ukrainian forces entered the town on Friday. The pace of the counterattack has caught the Russians off guard, and Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, a staunch supporter of President Vladimir Putin, appeared to question Moscow's military strategy. In a message posted to Telegram, Mr. Kadyrov said if there was not a change in Russia's fortunes, he would be forced to question the country's leadership to explain the situation. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of targeting critical infrastructure in Ukraine's east. In response, leaving large swaths of territory in total blackout. So it's a bit of a back and forth, and there are certain doubts. See Kadyrov, I mean, he's like this warlord, Chechen warlord, and I mean the fact that he's voicing some doubts pretty openly, because I mean, who knows? See, like, because I'm studying Russian history for one of my history classes, and so it's just so interesting to see how like certain trends in Russian history like keep repeating themselves. And it's just it's a very, again, because Russophobia is very real, actually. First when I heard that term, I'm like, come on, but no, it's actually like very real. So I don't want to, because I have respect for Russia, I do. But it's just like this war. It's just like, what is happening? Like, it's just like, what? So they're talking about that, the Kharkiv offensive, and the gains that they've made there. Like they're saying like entire units of Russian troops were being wiped out. So yeah, so and they also said the Ukrainian forces have said that they've captured like multiple generals too. I mean, a lot of these high-ranking commander officers are in the field. So yeah, man, like this is pretty significant. Yeah, so that was with Kharkiv and the advances they made there. But then I was talking also about Kherson. And there's a very different story there. It seems that in the south around Kherson, the Russian forces are more entrenched and more experienced, actually. So that is certainly something to consider. So, everybody's celebrating these victories happening in Kharkiv. Meanwhile, you hear stories about Kherson from wounded troops, and they're saying like they're completely outgunned. They're just getting zeroed in by artillery and drones, and yeah. So, and I'm reading from the Washington Post. So, soldiers said they lacked the artillery needed to dislodge Russia's entrenched forces and described a yawning technology gap with their better equipped adversaries. The interviews provided some of the first direct accounts of a push to retake captured territory that is so sensitive, Ukrainian military leaders have barred reporters from visiting the front lines. And so we're just hearing accounts from wounded Ukrainian soldiers and officers who are, going by aliases, because they can get reprimanded, right? So, quote, "They used everything on us," said Denis, a 33-year-old Ukrainian soldier whose unit fell back from a Russian-held village after a lengthy barrage of cluster bombs, phosphorus munitions, and mortars. Quote, "Who can survive an attack for 5 hours like that?" Denis and 8 other Ukrainian soldiers from 7 different units provided rare descriptions of the Kherson counteroffensive in the south, the most ambitious military operation by Kiev since the expulsion of Russian forces at the perimeter of the capital in spring. As in the battle for Kiev, Ukraine's success is hardly assured, and the soldiers' accounts signaled that a long fight and many more casualties lie ahead. And so, reading from this soldier, this platoon commander, we lost 5 people for every one they did. So, yeah, again, Russia has more troops to replace, and also, in this certain instance, there's the fire support the Ukrainians just didn't have. They're also saying how there was, they had Russian tanks in these cement fortifications that they would shelter in to, protect from artillery, and then they would just roll out and then shoot at the advancing Ukrainians, and then they would go back into the fort, and then, so it's like, again, they're like lodged in there. And they also said how they have because there's also electronic warfare, right, with the Russian hackers. They basically just hack into Ukrainian drones, and then they just fly the drones into Russian territory. So it's just crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's really what's happening there. And of course, they are talking with some certain soldiers. A lot of these Ukrainian soldiers are inexperienced. I mean, this is their first major war. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you read these stories, and then of course you have the celebration by these, they call themselves NAFO, like NAFO. They always have this Shiba, Doge little character. So it's weird. But of course, they're like, oh my God, Kharkiv. But then Kherson, they don't really talk about. So, hey, Ukraine is going to do what they were going to do, and they're going to try to dislodge the Russians from there. But at the same time, it's they're really up against hard fortifications, and it's just a gauntlet, really. It's a gauntlet. And yeah, again, they are saying though, oh no, but you see, Kherson was the diversion for Kharkiv. So that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. But we have to see what's going to move forward. Because Russia's going to respond somehow. We haven't even seen Russia half mobilization. So it's they even I believe they signed the law to conscript another 100,000 troops. So again, Russia, if they fully mobilized, they could easily crush Ukraine. But they're not going to do that. At least not yet. Yeah, but anyway, so that's with Ukraine, those different moves that they've been making. Now I am looking at this map, interactive map from the Institute for the Study of War, and so it is interesting to see how like the updates they've made. So when I was first watching yesterday, looking at it, there was a bit of it's like a bulge. So they made a breakthrough, and now looking at this new update, they pushed all the troops to the border. So like basically like the eastern, like not even like the eastern like sliver of the Kharkiv Oblast is still in Russian control, but the whole Oblast is eventually liberated. And they took Izium, so they pushed the Russian troops out of Izium. So they have a front, so it's no longer this big bulge. They have a front, but again, we have to see what the Russian response is going to be, because this just feels like one of these like situations where one side makes big gains, and then the other side makes a move, and they push everything out, and then it just goes back and forth. Again, this is very much a stalemate. I just don't think Russia's. I think Russia's holding back. I even think they said they're holding back because they want to limit civilian casualties. But the Kharkiv front is, the Kherson front, that is more of a fight. That is heavily fortified. And Kharkiv is, we're just gonna have to see what happens next. Again, it's like a little victory for Ukraine. Okay. Little victory for these, anti-Russia people, NATO people. And what's also interesting about this map too is they show reported partisan activity, just different areas within the Russian-controlled areas, and there's like a huge like pocket of partisan activity like around Melitopol, and of course there's like little pockets around the Donbass and Zaporizhzhia oblasts, and so there's activity behind the lines, and again, we just have to see where things are going to move and how how it's going to move forward. But so that's the Ukraine war in that area, of just war. And it's funny how like people talk about like sports and they get like like every detail. I don't know anything about sports. I don't follow sports. I follow war. So you want to talk about this war? Okay, we can do that. But fantasy football, I don't. Huh? What? So, So that's with the war in Ukraine, and also I wanted to talk also about a recent development. So this is new. Like there doesn't seem to be any like official like reports at least yet. Let me see here, because it concerns Armenia and Azerbaijan, and recently, like within like a couple hours ago, there seems to be like just a flash of violence. They have like artillery exchange. Let me see here, because it's not just because there's an area that's contested over. So they have this republic called Artsakh, or it's an Armenian exclave within Azerbaijan, and so it's just like a battle. But these clashes that are now being freshly reported, are within Armenia proper. So again, this is a very new development. This is like one of the only like articles that I can see at the moment. It's it's a Jerusalem Post article. This is the only one that I can really find about this clash recently. And it's a pretty serious exchange. And again, this is in Armenia proper. This isn't the Republic of Artsakh. Am I saying that right? Hold on. Hold on. Okay. The Republic of Artsakh. Yeah, I was saying that right. Okay. So, anyway, so just reading from the Jerusalem Post and what they're saying about these clashes. Large clashes broke out between Armenian and Azerbaijani forces along the border between the two countries on Monday night, according to Azerbaijani and Armenian defense ministries. Azerbaijani artillery and UAVs reportedly targeted sites in Verdansk, Goris, Sak, and Jarmuk in eastern Armenia. The Azerbaijani Defense Ministry claimed that Armenian forces carried out a large-scale sabotage towards Dash-Kasan, Kalbajar, Lakshin, including the mining certain areas. Casualties and material damage have been reported by the Azerbaijani side, although exact details are as of yet unclear. The Armenian Defense Ministry stated that Azerbaijani forces fired intensively with artillery fire and UAVs on Armenian forces in the Goris and Sak and Jarmuk areas. In August, 2 soldiers from the defense force of the de facto Artsakh Republic were killed, and 14 others were injured in strikes by Azerbaijani forces in the northwestern part of Nagorno-Karabakh region. So that's ultimately what this whole conflict is over, is this region that is inhabited by Armenians. So, right, the Republic of Artsakh is a de facto republic internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan. In 2020, the area where the republic is situated was recaptured by Azerbaijan. Meanwhile, the Azerbaijani Defense Ministry claimed that Armenian militants fired at Azerbaijani positions in the Lakshin district at the time, killing 1 Azerbaijani soldier. The Azerbaijani Defense Ministry announced then it would carry out an operation titled Revenge against a number of groups of Armenian forces in the region. The ministry additionally claimed that Armenian armed groups tried to seize the Kyrgyz Hill and establish new combat positions there. Later in August, Azerbaijani forces entered Lakshin, replacing Russian peacekeepers who were stationed there. So, yeah, this is a little clash, and that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict that happened was pretty significant. Again, it's so interesting now that we're having these conventional wars, and it's usually like these small little nation states, and this was before Russia invaded Ukraine, and now we're seeing the same sort of tactics, because Azerbaijan, they have Turkish drones, and so they've used that a lot against Armenians. There's a lot of videos of Armenian troops just getting zeroed and pinpointed, especially with artillery. So yeah, we're seeing that play out in this Russia-Ukraine war as well. So it's just new age of warfare, right? And of course they had to make a deal with Azerbaijan and Armenia, and they had Russian peacekeepers. So this new clash of violence, right? This basically artillery exchange, not the Nagorno-Karabakh region, but Armenia proper. So they're shelling Armenia, and who knows where things are gonna move from there. Let me see, actually, because Twitter can show some interesting media. Yeah, they're saying it's all across the border, but we're just gonna have to see what happens next. So anyway, this is like a new war. Oh, hey, new war, guys. So yeah. So before I wrap up with the episode, I'm gonna talk at least some more about more natural events that are happening. And something pretty significant happened with Pakistan. They had this cataclysmic flood, this monsoon, right? And also they have melting glaciers. Actually, Pakistan has the most amount of glaciers. They're in the Himalayas, and so they had this biblical level of flooding. Some of these videos, I'm not even joking. It literally looks like the earth is just like splitting apart because of the force of these floods, and it's like rivers of boulders. Okay, this video is insane, the stuff that's coming out. But of course, it's in the global south. It's brown people, poor brown people. So it's whatever. I remember in Germany not too long ago, they had a similar flash flood scenario, and these whole entire villages were getting washed out. And they interviewed this lady, and she's like, I just never could imagine this. This never happens in rich countries. I'm like, wow, this is again, this is how people think. No, only these disasters happen in poor brown countries. Because when it happens here, oh my God, I couldn't. What? It's just, again, man. The 33 million people are displaced in Pakistan. Still, right now, and it's just like Texas has 28 million people. Can you imagine if all of Texas just got flooded out and everybody was just homeless all of a sudden? That would devastate the country. Just the recovery efforts for that? What? Dude. Yeah, man. And this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. And when we have this conversation about climate change and the climate crisis, it's just people don't want to think about this. It's happening right, now. It's happening now. It's just yeah, man, you're just negative, you're just so cynical, and all you think about is the world ending. It's just wow. Anyway, so that's with Pakistan. I'm gonna read from Al Jazeera, actually, just know how they're covering this. And they had the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and his statement. This Secretary General, he's pretty much very open and upfront about the climate crisis and who is directly responsible, who is responsible for the climate disasters, and who is responsible to offer aid and support, especially for Pakistan, man. Right now, Pakistan, they've had some political crisis, which I definitely need to go into more, because it's actually really interesting what's happening. So they had Imran Khan, who was the prime minister, and he was effectively deposed. So actually, let me see real quick. So they had a no confidence vote and removal. And there's some speculation, though, that this is some meddling with the CIA, because he's not necessarily the most Western supporting politician. So they already have this crisis that's still ongoing. It's still ongoing, and something that's just gonna snowball, because Pakistan right now is a nuclear power, and they have a lot of instability, and this natural disaster is cataclysm. That's what it is. It's just gonna make things worse, because it's a food supply issue. It's infrastructure, because that's what the damage does. It's not just the flood itself. It destroys the infrastructure, and especially in a place like Pakistan, that's considered a developing nation, third world. Don't like to use that word, but that's what you would want to say, at least. It's stuff like this is really devastating. It really sets them back, and then it just only exacerbates the political issues, right? Say in the Syrian civil war, that was a direct result of record-breaking droughts that was pushing farmers to the edge with these super strict taxation measures, and yeah, man, this is just how things are going to happen. So again, they already have this political drama, political problems, and when people's standard of living starts falling, and it could lead to disaster. Even it can exacerbate it. So, right. So the as I was saying, the United Nations Secretary General, he's talking about what he's seen. He said, quote, "I've seen many humanitarian disasters in the world, but I have never seen climate carnage on this scale. I simply have no words to describe what I have seen today." Yeah, this is again, you think this is bad, it's going to get worse. This is just the start. It really is. So, right. They say more than a third of Pakistan was submerged by melting glaciers and record monsoon rains that began in June, causing colossal damage to homes, roads, bridges, rail networks, livestock, and crops. So, again, all this damage to infrastructure, to agriculture, and they're never going to fully repair that, because that's going to require, they say up to 20 billion in repairs. 20 billion. This is catastrophic. Some are saying 30 billion even. This is really bad. They even have the Mohenjo-Daro, which is like one of the Harappa Indus River Valley sites that got damaged as well from the flooding. Like this is and yeah, just like all of this that's happening again, like $30 billion in aid. Like they're not going to get that money. Okay, we gave $30 billion already to Ukraine, but like Pakistan is like they're going to get like crumbs. Like I think like Canada, like they pledged like $5 million. I'm like, right, that's going to help so much. Yeah, and so I'm going to continue with Guterres. Quote. Wealthier countries are morally responsible for helping developing countries like Pakistan to recover from disasters like this and to adapt to build resilience to climate impacts that unfortunately will be repeated in the future, Guterres said, adding that G20 nations cause 80% of today's emissions. Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of global greenhouse emissions, but is eighth on the list compiled by the NGO German Watch countries of most vulnerable to extreme weather caused by climate change. There seems to be a trend here where the areas in the world that don't contribute much to the emissions are being disproportionately affected by these disasters. Yeah, so this is just the start, and then they're not going to be able to repair it fully. And then it is going to continue to decline, and just the next disaster is going to cause more damage, and then eventually, like, the people are just going to have to leave because there's nothing left. The country's devastated. They gotta leave, and then they go to the border and they get shot at by the police or military because we can't have these brown people here. This is going to be so bad, dude. Like, dude, this is bad. Like, what's going to happen? Oh, man. So anyway, right. Guterres has lamented the lack of attention the world has given to climate change, particularly from industrialized nations. This is insanity. This is collective suicide. Yeah, absolutely right. And just reading, just like the rain measurements, right? The meteorological office said Pakistan has received 5 times more rain than normal in 2022. Padidan, a small town in Sindh province, has been drenched by more than 1.8 meters, or 71 inches, since the monsoon began in June. Yeah, so record rainfall. This is and it's not just the rainfall; it's the melt from the glaciers. I mean, the glaciers up in the Himalayas are huge. They're massive. So it holds a lot of water. And the thing about these glaciers is like it melts on the inside. So it's like this submerged lake. And then eventually that builds up over time and then it bursts. And then there's like a whole like deluge that just like destroys. Like you have all these rocks because like these glaciers, they carry like huge boulders. So all these boulders and rocks and all the ice that's just like broken into chunks, and the water, it's a flash flood. And like I've seen videos, like it's just like it just wipes out entire villages. Like it's crazy, bro. So yeah, so that's with Pakistan. Again, 33 million people, bro. Like, and this is the start. This is just the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. So, reading again, just from the New York Times, because China, they're having their own climate issues with drought and these riverbeds drying up, and this is causing energy concerns because this is affecting areas of China that are heavily reliant on hydroelectricity. So, when water levels recede, then they can't get as much power from that. And they're saying how because of that, they're turning more towards coal again. And of course, there's this conversation of China's efforts towards renewable energies, which like they have voiced it. Like they have those plans in place. Again, it's just rather they just haven't developed to that point yet. So they still have to use coal to transition into more cleaner sources. And then, of course, they're trying to use water, hydroelectric dams, but then the water levels are low, and then they have to go back to coal to meet up that demand. Yeah, it's just like, it's a cycle, because then it's like, okay, we have to use coal because we can't use enough water, and then we're going to release these emissions that are going to make things hotter. And then, so reading from the NY Times, New York Times, about this drought causing increased use of coal power plants. So they're saying how car assembly plants, or just reading from the article, car assembly plants, electronics factories in southwestern China have closed for lack of power. Owners of electric cars are waiting overnight at charging stations to recharge their vehicles. Rivers are so low there that ships can no longer carry supplies. A record-setting drought and an 11-week heat wave are causing broad disruption in a region that depends on dams for more than 3/4 of its electricity generation. The factory shutdowns and logistical delays are hindering China's efforts to revive its economy as the country's leader, Xi Jinping, prepares to claim a third term in power this autumn. And then there's this little quote, like this little article, which I think is so funny, but I'll say it first. So it's like, okay, the ruling Communist Party is already struggling to reverse a slowdown in China, the world's second largest economy, caused by the country's strict COVID lockdowns and a slumping real estate market. Young people are finding it hard to get jobs, while uncertainty over the economic outlook is compelling residents to save instead of spend, and to hold off on buying new homes. It's like everything they just said there. Now, of course, they're blaming it on the communists. Everything they just said is literally happening here. Like literally, like word for word. So it's just so funny. Of course, I do understand China does, like, they're not perfect. Of course, they're going to have their own issues, but it's like, bro, like, oh, young people can't work and they can't buy homes. Man, wouldn't that be crazy if that was happening here? Oh, man. Yeah, it's just everywhere, all these woes. But, right, just continuing. Now the extreme heat is adding to frustration by snarling power supply, threatening crops and setting off wildfires. Reduced electricity from hydroelectric dams has prompted China to burn more coal, a large contributor to air pollution and to greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming. Many cities around the country have been forced to impose rolling blackouts or limit energy use. In Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, several neighborhoods went without electricity for more than 10 hours a day. So, yeah, this is again, this is a logistical energy, problem, and like, yeah, it's causing issues. And this is, of course, a record-setting drought. They're saying just the different temperatures that they got was in Chongqing, a sprawling metropolis in the southwest with around 20 million people. The temperature soared to 113 degrees. So this is like, they're setting records for temperatures. Yeah. And of course they had some wildfires too. So this is everywhere, bro. This is there's no escape from this. And they're drying up rivers. Again, they said that because some of these rivers, they have ships that like just sail up the river, and that's also causing trade problems and logistic problems. So they have to use trucks now. So like the ships that could just like sail up to this like a river port, now they have to stay at the coast, and then they have to have trucks move those supplies, which of course is going to take, it takes like almost 500 trucks for one like ocean-going vessel. So yeah, it's causing issues, causing disruptions. And then they also talked about how this is, of course, because of these energy blackouts in the heat, now they can't, use air conditioning. So some people were talking how they have to use ice pops and drink ice drinks to stay cool because they have no air conditioning. Right. Yeah. So yeah, this is causing disruptions. This is a record-setting drought, and this, and also it's going to cause, it's affecting agriculture, so it's going to affect food prices. Let's see here. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs and 4 other departments issued an emergency notice warning on Tuesday that the drought posed a severe threat to China's autumn harvest. China's cabinet on Wednesday approved a $1.5 billion China's cabinet on Wednesday approved $1.5 billion for disaster relief and assistance to rice farmers and another $1.5 billion for overall farm subsidies. The government has urged local officials to seek out more water sources and allocate more electricity to support farmers and promote the planting of leafy vegetables, which are highly perishable in big cities. First, fire trucks have been used to spray water on fields and deliver water to pig farms. So, yeah, it's a real crisis. It's just so interesting how the water is just like, again, like it's gonna turn like into Dune, where it's just like, oh yes, the water. The water belongs to the tribe. It's just like that's how things are gonna get, man. Because like, yeah, man. Like, and again, we're gonna see it here too. Even in the U.S., like there's gonna be water problems, and especially for the farmers. And yeah, man. So, oh man, this is so bad. Right. So as I said, the reliance on hydroelectricity is being affected, and so they have to go to coal. I mean, they're doing coal mining to get the power to make up for it. Yeah. However, they are saying that they are, even though they are using the coal, they are still determined to reach renewable energy goals, carbon emission caps. So it's more just like they have to do this for now to build up to get into more cleaner renewable sources. But it's just the coal at the moment is what they have because the water is too low. The water levels are too low. So that is effectively what's happening there. And again, man, like everywhere, all these countries all over the place is these economic woes, and this just it's like it piles up. It keeps piling and piling, and so it's just like it's a matter of time before whichever country like just snaps, and it's just like it's like a siege almost, because of course we're having this adversarial relationship with Russia and China. But yeah, they're going to be affected also by these climate conditions, and who knows? It's just it's a battle, right? So yeah, man, that's what's happening. And I certainly that's really what I wanted to talk about for this episode. And yeah, I know I kind of opened up really with really somber. It's just like it's just a lot. I want to be upfront about my situation because there's a lot of difficulty in my life. And of course, anytime you're vulnerable and you're open about some issues and difficulties that you're doing, again, as I said, like I have this job, but of course, because of some technical hurdle that I probably won't be able to overcome, now I'm back at square one. And again, as I said, I've been out of work for 3 months because I thought I had this position like lined up, and then now it's out the window, and I'm back to where I started. People are just gonna use that against you because you're in a vulnerable position, because you're I'm doing my best. I'm literally doing everything that I'm told to do, and it's clearly not paying off. But of course, because it's just easy to look at me because I'm such an easy target. Oh, well, clearly it's your fault. Not that I'm saying I've never made mistakes. Of course I'm human, okay? But God damn it, man. What crime did I commit that I have to live like this? What did I do? What did I do? Because I work, I stay out of trouble, I value my education, I study, God damn it, man, I need a break. Holy shit. Yeah, what a surprise when you overwork somebody and constantly have them living in a state of crisis. They got some quirks They got some issues. Wow, what a surprise. I had this remote job, and now because of their equipment, I guess, it just blocks my internet. I think it's like an antivirus thing. But I don't know how to overcome that. And then I call support, and they're just like, well, you need a new Ethernet cable. I'm just like, that's not going to do anything. And I don't know, man. It's depressing. It really is depressing. I just don't, how to, again, it's just like anything to just like, to hate on the poor and the disaffected, because, you know, that's what America is about. It's just hating the other, hating the those that you don't understand, because clearly they're bad, okay? And if you're poor, that was you, and nobody owes you anything. But it's just like, I just want to live, bro. I just want to, I want a job. Give me a fucking job. Holy shit. Like, I just did some more applications today, and I'm just going to sit in limbo waiting Lord knows how long, just to have them say, oh, well, we can look through your resume and we're just going to have to decline your application. And wow, man. And I have to go to some retail or restaurant job where I'm going to put my body on the line and my health now with these fucking, you know, COVID infections, because that's where people get sick now, is at work. I gotta put my body on the line again. Like, that's why I wanted to have a remote job, so that way I wouldn't have to be on my feet constantly for 8 hours and like grind myself to the bone. But then again, like, I was doing some of this training stuff, and it's like you're sitting for 8 hours, and it's like, yeah, you can get injuries from that too, just from bad posture, or, you know, the way you like rest your wrist. It's ridiculous, man. It's soul sucking the life essence out of you, just grinding you down. And then for what? Because it was only like a $17 position. And I'm like, bro, you can't even like live comfortably off $20 now. That's how fucked everything is. And again, man, I'm just like, okay, people again will say that all I do is complain in this program, but what the fuck, man? I am doing what I can. And there's only so much that you can put somebody through. That's why, yeah, the reason why I'm so radical now, you know, I'm a radical leftist now, is because I did exactly as I was told to do, and it's clearly not paying off. And of course, it's an issue. Oh no, because you spend so much, bro. You got me working all this fucking hours, grinding myself to a bone, and then I gotta live like a Spartan. I can never like enjoy anything. I gotta like sit, and then of course, if I sit around and just, I guess, play my games, right? Because that's the only thing I can do without spending money. Now, oh no, all you do is sit around and play games, get a fucking girlfriend. It's like, bro, you just want to yell at people. And I'm talking like, of course, I'm talking like about my father or some other fucking dickhead in my life. It's just like, you know, there are people who can help me, but they don't want to. They just don't want to because, of course, oh no, see, because when I was your age, because I had to do this and that, and that's why you are fucking pussy, and you gotta fucking fight for your life, because I don't want to do anything for you, because now, oh, it's just, god damn it, man, I just hate everything right now. Again, I feel like crying. Like, I just need a break, man. I really do. Because I all this work, I'm just like, if I lose this job now, I'm going to have to go to my mom again, because that's the only person I can rely on, because I'm trying to fucking get a job, which of course always falls through. And then it's just like, of course, people are going to say, oh no, because you don't have, I gotta wrap this up. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just asking, you know, because again, the Patreon is there. And I have just $1. That's it. Just $1. Okay, I have some supporters. I have 2 supporters. So I'm thankful for them. But I don't know what else I have to do to get more engagement. Like, I have over 6,000 followers on Twitter. But it's like, I don't know what I have to do to get their attention. It's like, why do I have 6,000 followers and then they don't engage with me? Even though I post pretty regularly and I put out content. You know, it's just, And then like I see other people online doing what I do. Of course, they're being more successful with it. Like they'll put out a tweet like, "Oh, here's my Cash App. I'm still looking for work," and then they get all kinds of support. But then when I do it, it's like barely a drop. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, again, like I'm trying. Like I got the job. And then something that I can't control is preventing me from moving forward. And I'm going to lose everything. And I can't do it, man. I can't lose all of this. Because, again, my mother's health is failing. And I constantly, like, this is the thing that's in the back of my mind. I don't like asking for her help, but I don't know where else to go. Because I'm trying to work, and nothing is working. I apply. It's not like before, you just walk in and you can like, oh yeah, you can come on Monday. It's like this whole fucking convoluted process. And then these companies still want to complain that nobody wants to work. But then they make this onboarding and recruitment phase like the most soul-sucking, like dehumanizing experience. Because a lot of these jobs and these companies, what they do now is like they put you through this grueling process to just like, it's like submission. It's like a hazing phase almost. They want you to completely just like submit to the company. Yo, it's about the company. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm going to lose this job. Because I can't connect. Because like I have to connect to this computer. And it's like a VPN. And I guess the VPN is blocking my internet. Like, and it has to be an Ethernet connection too. I can't use Wi-Fi. Again, man, I'm trying. I really am. It's just, it's too much. It's too much, man. I'm so sad. It's just so sad what I have to live with. I don't mean to be so depressing. It's just, again, people, I feel like people hate me. It's just like, what the fuck, man? What did I do? What did I do that was so terrible that I have to live like this? Yeah, no, that's the lesson. I'm disposable, right? I'm just a throwaway piece of meat, right? Whatever. But I have this podcast at least, and I can say my piece, and that's the end of it. But thank you at least for those who at least listen to me. I do this show because I don't know what else to do. It's just, I gotta scream into the ether somehow, but somebody's gonna listen. So thank you at least for those that are making it this far and hearing what I have to say. So I'm just gonna wrap it up because I'm just, again, I'm at my wit's end. I don't even know what's gonna happen now because I'm gonna lose this job and I gotta apply again, and then I'm gonna have people fucking yelling at me. It's always the yelling and always the bickering and the disrespect and the fucking stink eye. It's just like, wow, man. No, but then watch if I finally get a good break. Oh man, all these people are going to be patting me on the back. Oh, I'm so proud of you. I was always there for, like, fuck you. Anyway, that's the episode. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I have better news on the next recording. So who knows, but thank y'all and hang in there.